Hey everyone, welcome to today where we're going to be talking about planning your episodes. So, there's a few factors that I want you to consider as you're planning out your episodes. Hopefully, you've got a whole long list of topics. You have a recording date in mind. Maybe you've got a guest coming up, and now it's time that you're actually going to be recording them. We're going to get into how you record them in just a moment. We talked a little bit about it in the equipment setup, but before we get there, we want to make a plan of what we're actually doing. Now, there's a few ways you could set up your podcast. One could be in segments. You see this New Heights, the Kelsey brothers. They have segments, right? They've got funny little segments that they do. Very similar to almost like a radio show, right? You've got little pieces you bring in throughout the episode. You know, it's different every time, right? But the segments are the same. That's one way to set up your show. Again, it really depends on your audience, what you're trying to convey, what you're trying to do. Not everybody's going to be a Kelsey brother, so consider that, please. I know I had a client who were like, we need to be like the Kelsey brothers, but I'm like, that's not the content. So that's one way to approach it. Otherwise, you're going to do maybe a solo show. If it's a scripted show, or kind of going into another realm, but solo show or interview show. For either of those shows, and honestly, even for the segmented one, I really want you to be clear of what you want the audience to walk away from when they listen to this or watch this. Are there a few bullet points you want them to get? Are there takeaways? Are there things you want them to implement? I don't ramble just to ramble. My thoughts on great podcasts, and again, this is my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt, but the ones I love listening to, I know there's prep involved in it. I know there's been research. I know there's, that they're not just sitting there for the first time together. There's been some sort of idea of each other, but there's this beautiful flow between script and preparation and going off the cuff. All right. And I feel the same way too with when you're doing stuff to the camera. Like, there's people who really love the teleprompter. They want to know exactly what to say. They want to know exactly what it is. For me, my preference is an outline. I want to, know the three main points I want to make sure I get across and how those go across. But I also want some freedom to fill in and talk. And I'm too afraid of sounding just like a robot. So to me, that's what I prefer. So whether it's solo or, like I said, even an interview, have some preparation involved. Know what you want to talk about and have the outcome be. I think it's really important. However, I want you to give yourself that freedom and grace to let the conversation go into places that maybe you didn't prep for. If you have guests, this is a really important thing. And we've dealt with guests now. I've been doing podcasts for over 10 years now. It hurts to say. And have had numerous guests, whether it's for my client shows or for my shows. And I will tell you, yes, there are people who can easily record off the cuff, and they'll just be, and I'm to a point now, I really can. I'm comfortable enough. Like, I don't care what you ask me. Even if I'm not prepared, I'm willing to say, that's not my forte. I'm willing to say, I don't know. I'm okay saying those things. Happy to give you guys a resource if I'm not sure. Some people get really, really, really scared of this. Some people have never done a podcast before. So what I have found works really, really well is what you prep your guests and you give them some sort of outline or some sort of questions. My process is, hey, just to give you an idea, this is, a video audio podcast. I've given you some of those scripts just as you schedule this, but here are the questions. Here are some of the questions we may ask. You can, give those and make sure they're per client too. So, hey, I'm going to ask you about this thing that I really want to talk about this. I really want to talk about that. I really want to talk about this. You got to set them up for some of the questions you're going to ask. I always tell them, like, hey, just understand, I want this to be a free flow conversation though. So if we're going down a path that I really want to keep going on, understand we may go off script and go down there. I also tell them, you can tell me, no, I don't want to answer that at any point. So this is like a prep I give all of our guests all the time, even with our clients' guests. Like, if you say, I don't want to answer that, don't worry about it. We're just going to edit that out and we're going to take that out. Or I say, if you want to start over, or if you're going to bed tonight, because it always happens when we're lying in bed, I don't know about you, I get the anxiety rolling through and I'm like, oh my God, why did I say that? But I always say, if there's something that's said and you want to let me know, we'll take it out later. So it really puts the guests at ease about what they're expecting and what's to come. I think this is really important to understand because, again, you may feel super comfortable rolling with it, but giving that permission to, it's going to be edited out. We're going to take out anything you don't feel comfortable in. Here's the questions, just so they know they're not coming in blind. And here's what the kicker is, and what I really feel really sets guests at ease. Is there something you really want to make sure I talk to you about, or something that we cover today? And when they know they've got that opportunity to really drive the conversation for them and towards them, I've found that's the click that really puts them at ease. So think through those things, whether it's, like I said, if you're segmenting, know your segments, know what each one's going to happen, and know the purpose of your segments. Like, how do these, again, we're looking at, most of us are not going to be here strictly for entertainment. Yes, we want to entertain our clients. I'm not saying that, but there is a purpose behind our podcast. It is to get our business out there. It's to get our business out to the world, right? And let people know how amazing we are. That's the goal. So segments got to align with that. If it's solo, make sure you know what you want to cover, but give yourself some freedom, give yourself some space. You're going to get to a point where you can edit well. And, I'm going to show you the tools to edit once you get in there, where it's not really scary and hard, but have that understanding. Or if you want to do a teleprompter, do a teleprompter. Nothing wrong with that. The third side is really make sure you prep your guests. Have an idea of where you want the conversation to go, the three main things you want to do. Give the guests a list of questions they can expect. Again, warn them, hey, we may go off script. I had a guest one time. It was so funny. I did the whole preamp. She was nervous though. And I asked a question off script. We were going down. She'd mentioned something. I'm like, oh gosh, I want to follow that. And I asked a question. It was off script. And she literally just kind of froze and looked at the script like, wait a minute, that wasn't there. But we got her back and everything was good. But I watched it firsthand happen, and it can happen sometimes. So prep them as much as possible. Give them the out. Everything's editable, if I can say that. Let them know that. And then also give them that out too. If something comes up tonight, let me know. I've had that happen in all of the podcasts that we've ever done. I think I've had that happen twice, maybe, that somebody's come back. It's really been random things. You think that they divulged some really crazy information and they didn't, but I digress. And then also let them have that, hey, what do you want to make sure I talk about with you, or make sure I ask? Like, that really puts them at ease. So have some fun with it. Have a plan. Understand what we're doing with this podcast. It's really, really important. And we're going to get to actually recording the episode next.